All right, so today is day 2 of How Does It Grow? And what we didn't talk about yesterday when we introduced simple and compound interest is that there is a third option, which is investing in a money market account, which offers to compound the interest more often. One example is a money market account that offers 8% annual interest compounded quarterly. So instead of compounding it at the start of the year, it compounds it 4 times per year. This means that the 8% is divided into 4 parts over the year, so the bank pays 2% quarterly or every 3 months. So instead of waiting until January 1st and you get that whole 8% once, it's going to give you 2% on the first day of April, 2% on the first day of July, 2% on the first day of October, and then you'd start over again at the first day of January. Model the quarterly value of the $1,000 investment in this money market account with an equation. Let Y represent the money in the account after X quarters. So you'll notice now we're defining the time in quarters instead of defining the time in years. So we've got 8% annual, which breaks down to 2% quarterly because it is compounded quarterly. So these are the things we want to look for. Those are the important things. So our model is going to be exponential. Y equals 1,000 because we're still going to invest that same $1,000. It's 2%, so 1.02. Just started to make that mistake that I didn't make yesterday. And to the X. Now, X is number of quarters. So in B, where it says use the model to calculate the value of your $1,000 investment after 4 years, you need to say, oh, well, 4 years is the same as 16 quarters. So there's a little bit more than just plugging in the number at this point. We're going to do Y equals 1,000 times 1.02 to the 16th because we're going to do it for 16 quarters. So Y is approximately, because I did the 1.02 to the 16th and came out with an extraordinarily long number, so I rounded it to approximately 1.37. So Y is about $1,372.79. So we would say $1,372.79 compared to on the first day, we found that it was 1,320 if we had done simple interest. And we had gotten 1,360.49 when we did the compound interest and we did it yearly. So this one, the compound interest where we did it quarterly, this was the highest. And that's because you're getting interest more often. You have $500 to invest and have several options available to you. Your banker shows you the graph at right to explain what you can earn if you invest with him. Does this graph represent simple or compound interest? So it is linear. It's a straight line. That tells us that it is simple interest because it is linear. What is the interest rate? So we would have to look at something like we start at $500 and we went to $600. So we went up by 100 and the initial was 500. So it was a $100 increase. And the initial value that we had put in was $500. That's the 0.2 or 20%. So it was a 20% increase. And if we're going to write an equation, we would say Y equals, we had a $500 investment and you were earning $100 per year. Now remember, this one's linear, this one's simple. So we're not having a multiplier, we're having repeated addition. So the $100 is the amount of interest that you earn per year, right? It doesn't matter how many years long this goes, simple interest is linear. Simple interest means, yeah, I'm getting 20%, but that 20% doesn't change. It's always the original 20%. It's always the $100 out of the 500, never going to get any higher than that. Jerry says, I've got my money in a great account that compounds interest monthly. The equation, Y equals 388 times 1.008 M, or to the M, represents how much money I have at the end of any month. What is Jerry's annual interest rate? So what we've got here is Jerry's rate of 0.008. That means he's getting 0.8% per month. And we would need to multiply that by 12 If we multiply that by 12, we would get that it's a 9.6% yearly that somebody divided up over the 12 months. So over the course of a whole year, he's getting 9.6%. But because it's compounded monthly, he's only getting 0.8% for each of those 12 months. So I divided the 9.6% by 12, and that's where this 1.008 came from. So yearly, he's getting 9.6%. Write an equation to represent your total money if you invest your $500 in an account with the same rate of return. So the new equation would be 500 times 1.008 to the m, because everything else stays the same except that initial $500. An investment advisor shows you the table of earnings you see at the right. Write an equation for the table, letting Q represent the number of quarters the money has been invested. What is the annual interest rate? So we need to figure out what the multiplier is, right? They're telling us that this is a quarterly investment or a quarterly compounded interest. And so we're going to say, I had a change here of $15. So $15 out of the initial 500 is a 3% increase. So my compound interest rate is 3% per quarter. So I'm going to start with, 3% per quarter. If you do times 4, the annual interest rate would be 12%, but we had to divvy it up among quarters. So we did 12 divided by 4, which gave us 3% each quarter because the table is set up by quarters. So we'd say Y equals, you can see from the beginning, we're investing $500. 1.03 is the quarterly interest. And then the exponent would be a Q for per quarter. So this was our yearly. 3% times 4 is because it's compounded quarterly. And we got the 3% by saying, how much did our amount change? It changed by $15, and $15 is 3% of the original 500. Compare the earning potential of the options described in parts A, B, and C above. Which account is the best investment if you plan to leave your money in for only 1 year? Which would grow the most after 10 years? So A starts with the most initially. So A starts, right off the bat, pretty good because you're getting the 8% annual interest, but it's linear. After 10 years, C will earn the most money over time because it has the highest yearly interest rate. So if you're looking at, for example, this one's getting a 12% over the course of a year, right? Where this one was only getting 9.6% over the course of a year. But if you want something that's really good really quickly, and you're only going to stay in, just for the 1 year, this one was pretty good just for the 1 year at 20%. But that 20% is not going to continue to stay the highest. So just a quick wrap up on that. A starts with the most initially because it's the 20%, but since it's linear, the curved B and C, the geometric patterns of B and C, will overtake A very quickly. C will eventually get higher than B. So after 1 year, A is your best at 20%. After 10 years, C is your best with the highest yearly interest rate.